Okay, so this is the final page on the review guide. I just made a separate video for this one here for you so you can kind of follow along. There are going to be some of these problems where you're trying to find the equation of these conic sections, and this is how we do them. So for the first one, we're going to write the equation of a parabola that goes through the point 1, 2 with a focus of negative 1, 2. Okay, so you see here, it just says point. It's not really given the vertex, but if you draw a picture here, so we say we got a focus of negative 1, 2. So negative 1, 2, right there is our focus. Okay, and we got a point on the parabola, 1, 2, right there. Well, we know that the focus is on the axis of symmetry, right? So if we kind of think about that, if those 2 points are on the same parabola, then that one's got to be the vertex. Okay? And the stuff on the test tomorrow, I'd probably rather give you the vertex than just saying a point on there. Okay? So rather than just being a point, that's the vertex. Okay? So if we think about how to determine if this is an x equals or y equals now, which point is changing? If we look between this one and this one, the x value changes, so it's an x equals equation. And that's our general form for an x equals equation, which we also need the equation for the focus here now because we're given the focus. So our focus is h plus 1 over 4a, comma k. So we can use that information to find our equation. So this part of our focus right there, we know that that is a negative 1. So let's set up an equation. Negative 1 equals h, which is a 1, plus 1 over 4a. So we need to solve for a here. So let's move the 1 over first. Minus 1, minus 1. That goes away here. We have a negative 2 equals 1 over 4a. And then how do we get rid of the a out of the bottom? Or the 4a out of the bottom, rather. I want to times by 4a on both sides. Okay, times by 4a. So then we get a negative 8a equals 1. So a equals negative 1/8. So that's what we needed to find. All right, so we found a, we have our vertex, so let's just plug it into our equation. So x equals negative 1/8 y minus k, so that's a 2, squared plus h, which is a 1. That's your equation. So the big thing here, recognizing that this point, that 1, 2, is just your vertex, and then figuring out how to set up your equation using your focus and your vertex. Number 2, equation for a parabola with a focus of negative 2, 5 and a directrix at y equals 3. Again, you can draw yourself a picture to do this one, to figure it out. Okay, so I got y equals 3, that's my directrix, so I know right away this is going to be y equals something. So it's y equals a x minus h squared plus k. Right, because the y equals parabola matches the y equals directrix. So let's figure out where our vertex is here. I got my directrix at y equals 3. So y equals 3 looks like that. My focus at negative 2, 5. Focus is here. And what do we know about our directrix and our focus in comparison to a normal parabola? All right, so we know that our vertex is going to be right there, halfway between. We could use the midpoint formula or something if we wanted to, or you could just kind of count. All right, so if I go right in between those, that point is negative 2, 4. Right there, that one is negative 2, 4. That's your vertex. All right, because your vertex is right in between the focus and the directrix. So now we can set up our equation. So we're going to use our focus here, and our vertex here. And we could use the directrix if we wanted to. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to use the focus here to keep it the same. So the focus value is a 5. That's the one that's changing. So 5 equals 4 plus 1 over 4a. So solve it just like we did the last one. Minus 4 minus 4. I get 1 equals 1 over 4a. Times by 4a on both sides. You get 4a equals 1. So A has got to be 1/4. So let's put that into our equation now. So y equals 1/4 x plus 2, because our h is a -2 there, squared plus 4. So hopefully you understood those. There's going to be a couple of those on the test for tomorrow. They're not too bad if you just remember to figure out your vertex and find your focus, and you're going to use that little focus equation that you're given on the test. Okay, some circles here. Write the equation of a circle that goes through the point 5, 6 with a center at 2, 3. So we know if we have a circle, we have a center point and a point on the circle. What can we find? We need to find the radius. And we need to find the radius by using the distance formula. So distance formula, again, x2 minus x1, quantity squared, plus y2 minus y1, quantity squared. That's all underneath the radical there. So it doesn't matter which one you pick for x1 or x2, just kind of keep it consistent. So we could say this is our second point and this is our first point maybe, or vice versa, because we always like to go from the center to the outside. So we'll do 5 minus 2 squared plus 6 minus 3 squared. That's all underneath the radical. All right, so 5 minus 2, that's 3. Squared is 9. 6 minus 3, that's 3. Squared, that's another 9. So 9 plus 9 is underneath the radical. We get square root of 18. And remember, when we put this into our formula, it's always r squared over here. What we found was r. So when we put that into our formula, we square it. So that radical goes away. Okay, and we do need to use the center point here for our equation of the circle. So it's x minus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 3 quantity squared equals 13. Because you always square that radius that we found. Okay, they're pretty easy once we just use the distance formula. Distance formula is the number crunching we have to do here. Okay, so the second one here, same thing. All right, distance formula, we got a center and a point on the circle. So we'll do 0 minus 2 squared plus 0 minus 3 squared. So that's going to give me the square root of 4 plus 9, right? Because this would give me a 2 here. So that 2 squared is 4, 3 there, 3 squared is 9. All right, so we got square root of 4 plus 9, which is the square root of 13. And our center's at 0, 0, so this one's just going to be an x squared plus y squared equals 13. Because remember, we need to square that radical. All right, down below we got ellipses. All right, write an equation of an ellipse with the following information. So we got vertices of 10, 0 and negative 10, 0, and co-vertices of 0, 9 and negative 9, 0. If you wanted to draw a picture, again, pictures are always a good way to go. You can never go wrong. So negative 10, 0, and then we got 10, 0 over here. And then we have 0, 9, and we got 0, negative 9. So this is an ellipse here. It kind of looks like a little round. That's a pretty terrible ellipse. We'll go with it. Okay? So remember, when we use our numbers underneath, we have to figure out where the center is first. Center should be pretty obvious after you draw a picture. All right? Right there is your center. So that's 0, 0 is your center. So we know our ellipse is going to just have an x squared on top plus y squared on top here. And they're always set equal to 1. We have to figure out these numbers on the bottom here. We don't know this one or this one. But remember, those numbers come from our major and minor axes. Okay? So looking at the major axis, that's the x. Okay? And we can use the whole length of that axis, or you can count halfway, because remember, we kind of want to use a radius almost, like with these. So here to here, that's 10 units. So that's like my x radius. And when I put that back underneath the x, because that's my major axis, I square that number. So we would have 100 down here. Okay, and then same thing as we look the other way. That's a 9 down there. So the number underneath the y would be an 81 because that's 9 squared. So that is your equation. Okay, so the picture really helps on this one, or you can kind of visualize it. You know that your major axis, that's the bigger numbers here. Okay, major axis is going to go with the 10s, minor axis is going to go with the 9s. Okay, last one, all the way on the bottom here. Write the equation for the ellipse with the following information. Major axis is vertical. Okay, vertical means y-axis. It's parallel to the y-axis, so the y is going to have the larger number underneath it. Center at 8, negative 2. Okay, that's some good information. X minus 8 squared plus y plus 2 squared. Bigger number is going to go down here, right, because that's our y-axis is the major axis. And let's figure out the number. So major axis right here. Major axis is 18 units long. So remember, we cut that in half, which would be 9, and then you square it. So we get an 81 down here. Minor axis, 8 units long, goes underneath the x, cut it in half, that's 4, square it, you get a 16. All right, and I need my equals 1 on the side here. So equals 1, because all ellipses equal 1 for what we're working with right here. And that is the equation for our ellipse, okay? So quick little video. Hopefully this helped you get through these 6 problems on the back. Remember, there are a few of those on your test for tomorrow. So good luck. Happy studying, people.